with Variations on the Variations of Goldberg by Johann Sebastian Bach by Dan Tepfer. We have Dan Tepfer on the line. Dan, welcome to WPFW.
Thank you so much, Rusty. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, you took an unusual approach to the Goldberg Variations, that you put your own after each variation. Tell us how you approached that and what was your thought process in doing that. Of course, when I was a kid growing up in the 50s and 60s, Glenn Gould was the one who had his unusual take on it. And then about 20 years ago, Uri Cain really took it outward. But you have an interesting variation on it. Tell us about it.
Well, I came to the Goldbergs as a child almost. In my early teens, I heard them for the first time. And then in my early 20s, I got a score, and I just always loved the music. And as soon as I started playing them, I realized that Bach was doing something very similar to what jazz musicians do in the Goldberg Variations, because what he does is he states a theme, which we call the aria, at the beginning and at the end, and that theme comes with harmony, right?
Right.
It has harmony that accompanies the melody, and in the 30 variations between the two themes, he invents variations, new ideas over that same harmony of the melody. So it's really the same as what jazz musicians do when they play over something like All the Things You Are. They'll play the melody with the harmony, and then they'll invent new ideas over that harmony as it keeps cycling underneath. So of course, once I realized that, and once I started working on the music more and more seriously, it became almost like an obvious thing that I wanted to make my own variations on that same harmony.
It's really fascinating, Now, brief bios mention that you're Parisian born, but did you grow up in Paris?
I did, yeah. In fact, my dad still lives there. My parents moved there in 1978 and never looked back. They loved living there.
Oh, wow. Okay. What'd your dad do that brought him to Paris?
My dad is a biologist, now retired, and my mom was an opera singer. She sang in the Paris Opera Chorus, and I grew up, I lived in Paris. I was born in Paris and lived there for 18 years, and I grew up going to the opera all the time, and my mom's father, my grandfather, was a jazz pianist on the West Coast in Oregon.
Okay.
So I really had those two influences from age zero.
So that certainly would make the connection there, absolutely. But also you have an unusual degree for a jazz musician. Tell us about how you went to Edinburgh and what the degree is in. Yeah, well,
also in a very obvious way, my dad being a biologist, I've been very interested in science since I was a kid, and I still am very interested in science. And so I got really fascinated with astrophysics when I was in my teens. I read A Brief History of Time, and I read The Elegant Universe, and other books about astrophysics. And so I ended up getting a bachelor's in astrophysics from the University of Edinburgh. But I was really playing jazz all the time. I was gigging like 2 or 3 times a week on the scene there. So even though I really loved that subject, I felt like I had to try and be a professional musician. So then I did my master's in jazz piano at the New England Conservatory in Boston.
Now, when you were in Boston, was Jackie Byard still performing in that area?
Unfortunately, I missed Jackie. I was in Boston 2003 to 2005, and I believe he passed sometime before that.
Right. Okay. I was wondering if there was any overlap there. Jackie was a good friend of mine. He came to my house a couple of times whenever he played DC, and he was such an influence on a whole generation of pianists who came through Boston while he was up there.
Absolutely, an incredibly important figure in the music. That's wonderful that you guys were friends.
Yeah, I've been really blessed with some of the people I've encountered with the music over the 50 years I've been doing this.
One person I got to be very influenced by and who died shortly thereafter was Bob Brookmeyer. I studied with him when I was at NEC. He was a big influence on me.
But you also had a recent collaboration for years with the late Lee Konitz, who just left us. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I wish you had one of our 2 duo records in your stash. Maybe we'll have to talk again, and I'll have to
Absolutely.
get you a copy.
We'll work that out, definitely.
Yeah, so I was very, very fortunate to get to tour and really get to know in a close way the great Lee Konitz. We played together for the last 12 years, and we put out our first duo record together in 2009 on Sunnyside, and then we put out our second duo record together in 2018 on Verve, and that's called Decade, to celebrate the fact that it had been actually over 10 years that we've been playing together.
Fantastic. No, he was so important to the music, and really an interesting guy. My story that I alluded to when I got back to you on it was I was teaching a couple of courses, one at Georgetown University and another at University of Maryland University College, which has a lot of working class folks who are working on a degree. And Brad Maldo had Lee performing with a big band at Blues Alley on a Wednesday night in between my classes. And I had students, of course, going out, but they had no specific assignment. So, I wasn't going to tell them to go. I encouraged them, but I wasn't really going to make it a specific assignment. So I go to Blues Alley, and there are a number of the Georgetown students. And, showing me, oh, hey, I'm here. And as I'm leaving, there's a 50-year-old African-American woman from the other school, the University of Maryland University College. I think she worked in the Postal Service. She was into neo-soul. And she approached me as I was leaving, and she said, "Do you think Mr. Konitz would sign the photograph of him in our textbook?" And I said, "Well, sure. Let's go ask." So I went upstairs to the little dressing room, and I reintroduced myself. I had a long conversation decades earlier with him at the One Step Down. He kind of acted like he remembered me, but I asked him, "Would you do me a favor and sign the picture?" And he did. He was very gracious about it. And about a year later, when I was up for the Jazz Journalists Award ceremony up at the Blue Note up in New York, when we were having the ceremony, Lee was in the audience. I went up to thank him again. He again was very, very gracious about that. It was just so neat to have that conversation with him.
Yeah, Lee was the thing about Lee is he really stood for truth in every aspect of his life. You really heard it in the music. He never played a note that he didn't truly mean from the heart. And he also never really said anything that he didn't mean. So,
absolutely.
As a result,
either.
What's that?
I said he wouldn't bite his tongue either.
No, he wouldn't bite his tongue. But as a result, any interaction you had with him, you felt like you were, really getting to know him, and he was really getting to know you because you'd say what you really thought, and that's pretty special and a very, very inspiring thing for me and for, I think, many people who got to know him.
Well, the last time we had a conversation on the air, you were about to do a performance for Bennett Thompson at the Arts Club of Washington, and he planned to bring you back, but this time it's going to be one of the streaming type of performance, giving all that we're dealing with right now. Tell us about it. Tell us about what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, these are very interesting times we find ourselves in, not to mention strange times. And I'm the type of person, I think many people are this way, but I always, whatever I'm faced with, I try to make the best of it. And in this particular situation, I realized that I love to perform for people, and I particularly love to perform live for people. Mm-hmm. I really live for that feeling of genuine, authentic connection in the moment, and that's why I love improvisation so much, because it allows you to feel the specificity of the moment even more than any other way, since you can really respond to it in a specific way. And
we're getting a little bit staticky, so I'm going to give the details again over the air, and again get back into your music. So this is going to be a live stream on this coming Monday, May 11th at 7 p.m. And for the nominal sum, you go to pianojazz.com to be able to stream the concert. And as as Burnett mentions, the concert remains privately online for 1 week if 7 p.m. is inconvenient. So there's no excuse to miss this performance. And again, Piano Jazz at the Arts Club, we pulling something off. It was just such a wonderful series, you know. It's just a dramatic change that we're encountering right now. But it was, for me, all the artists that Burnett brought in were just so important to hear, and I'm so glad that you're able to do the stream thing. That's part of the series, and hopefully
me too. Can you hear me better now?
Back on the air.
Can you hear me better now, Rusty?
Say that again.
Can you hear me better now?
No, it's all kind of staticky. I don't know if it's my earphones or if it's coming across on the air like that. But let me ask you. We're going to hear something from Small Constructions. Tell us about your duet with Ben Wendell.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah. So I have what's the tune we wanted to do? Lineup. That's the one we have queued up. What was it like doing the spare things? You've been doing duets with Lee Konitz, and Ben Wendell is someone with a different approach to it, of course, because he's much younger. Tell us about that.
Well, Ben Wendell is a very interesting composer, as well as an incredible sax player, and actually a very accomplished bassoonist as well. And with Lee, everything is about true improvisation in the moment, and just, it doesn't matter what we're playing. We could be playing a jazz standard, or we could be playing free. It's all about the depth of the connection in the moment. With Ben, we took a much more conceptual and compositional approach. On this record, we wrote a lot of original material, and we also did some pretty interesting arrangements of existing material. Like we do a piece by Handel where Ben is orchestrating the piece with a whole bunch of layers of bassoons and saxes, and I'm doing a kind of a piano concerto on top. We play some Thelonious Monk songs, and this one that I wanted us to play tonight is a solo by the great Lenny Tristano, where we took the choruses that he played in his solo. We played those in real time, meaning at normal speed. But in fact, when Lenny Tristano recorded it, he recorded them an octave down at half speed and then doubled it. And so what we did is, in between the choruses of his solo, we recorded ourselves improvising an octave down and then sped those up twice for the final result. So it's kind of this meta tribute to Lenny Tristano.
Okay, well, let's hear Lineup again. This is Dan Tepfer and Ben Wendell. Dan Tepfer is at the streaming from the Arts, not from the Arts Club, but actually part of the Arts Club series. And again, if you go to pianojazz.com, you can get all kinds of information on it from Burnett Thompson. Again, Dan, thanks for calling in as we get into Lineup. Thanks a lot, and we'll be listening on Monday.
Thank you so much, Rusty.
Okay.
Bye-bye.